If you've been feeling like you want to pull back lately, rest more, talk less, think deeper, I want you to hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you. What you're experiencing isn't laziness, burnout, or losing your edge. This is a natural cycle that your nervous system, your hormones, and your brain are designed to move through. We were never meant to live in permanent summer, but the modern world is built as if winter didn't exist and that we don't need our inward reflection time to integrate. In this episode, I want to help you reframe hibernation, not as something to resist, but as one of the most intelligent phases of restoration and recalibration your body has. Because when we stop fighting these cycles, we stop turning wisdom into self-judgment. And when I talk about rhythms, I'm not just talking about routines or schedules that you have to perfect. I'm talking about something much older and wiser than that. This is in your brain, your nervous system, your hormones. They are all meant to move through cycles of expansion and contraction, outward and inward. It's as innate as our heartbeat, breathing, the inhale, the exhale. The problem isn't that you've lost motivation or discipline. It's that we're living in a world that only honors one part of the rhythm, the outward, productive, visible part, and completely ignores these inward seasons. So as you start to feel more reflective, sensitive, inward, I want you to recognize that that's wisdom. This is a feature, not a flaw. And in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the rhythms at 3 different levels, because when we see this pattern repeat, it becomes impossible to unsee it. All right, so I'm going to walk you guys through from the macro, the big season, winter. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to explain to you all the benefits of what's actually happening when we go inward, when we feel this hibernation and we judge ourselves. But I'm not just going to talk about the yearly rhythm. I'm going to incorporate winter as it relates to our monthly cycle. So our menstrual cycle, if you're someone who still bleeds, the lunar cycle, if you're someone who doesn't, and our daily rhythm. We have a winter week in our monthly cycle, in our lunar cycle, and we have a winter section of each day. And so what I want you to walk away with this episode with is a permission slip, a reminder again that your desire to go inward and get quiet during this time of the year, or during certain times of the month or certain times of the day, is a feature, not a flaw. So my hope is that this information becomes your permission slip. And honestly, what I really desire is that it becomes your reminder, that it anchors some science into what you have been feeling and what you know to be true. Because my goal, my mission with everything that I share here, you guys, is to just help you reflect back and understand that you are the expert, you are the guide, you are the one that knows all this stuff. I'm just here to drop a little bit of the science so that you can believe it. So my desire is to remind you so that you have that weight, right? To trust your gut instinct. So there's so much information and knowledge out there, and I just don't feel like this is a message that we are getting. So I'm going to keep teaching you and reminding you how to lean in and align with these rhythms, because when we do, when we honor them, we start to live in ease, flow, and everything comes to us and through us. This is going to look like getting it all done, but not feeling like you're hustling or struggling. This is going to feel like congruency. This is going to feel like joy, ease, and freedom. This is going to start to feel like, wow, I got my entire to-do list done and I'm not feeling crazed at the end of the day. Sound good? Super cool, right? All right, so let's start. We're going to start with winter. Again, I'm going to talk about the season. I'm going to go through each aspect of winter, right? So we're going to talk about the winter season. We're going to talk about the monthly cycle of winter. We're going to talk about the lunar cycle, the daily cycle, and then we're going to go into the next season, which would be spring. Okay, so in winter, this is a time of deep restoration, truth, and recalibration, right? So think about many of us around this time of year tend to want to maybe sleep in a little bit more, maybe be a little bit more quiet, maybe like lay on the couch a little bit, and we tend to judge ourselves, right? What's wrong with me? I don't have discipline. I don't have motivation. And it is always good to like check in on those things. But what is actually happening around this time, light is decreasing. Our cortisol is decreasing. Our melatonin is going up. We start to shift our brain waves during this season from high beta. So anyone who has been following me for any length of time, let me just do a quick little recap on the brainwaves. Brainwaves are like gears in a car, and throughout our day, we function in our different gears. Most of us are living in gear 3, which is beta. This is the get stuff done gear, and it has its time and its place, but we are running it all the time. So just like a car, you wouldn't go right into gear 3. We need to start to put some more value on gear 1 and 2. And so in winter, the prime gear of winter is not beta. It is actually alpha and theta, which are the lower gears, gear 1 and 2. The question I want you to ask yourself in winter is not what am I producing now, but it's what is true for me now. So you think about this in winter when melatonin goes up, when light goes down, when cortisol, our driver, goes down, we tend to blame and guilt ourselves for not wanting to produce. What's wrong with me? Why don't I have the energy? Why am I not crushing it right now? This is the time for inner reflection. This is the time for discernment. This is the time for recalibration to assess what's working and what's not. So the question to ask yourself in the winter is what is true for me now? And guess what? You're only going to get the answer to that if you're creating space for integration. Quiet, low-key downtime space. And when you think about it, how cool that that's like the mode that we're in. That's what we're drawn to. Again, we're just not hearing that this is empowering, that this is a feature, not a flaw. And so what do? I think a lot of us tend to live in misalignment during this time. We doom scroll because we don't have the energy to produce and we don't know what else to do during this time, right? We push through, we over caffeinate. When during this time, we have access again to theta and alpha brainwaves, our gear 1 and our gear 2. You guys remember, theta is the gateway to our subconscious. So any question that you ask when you are in gear 1, when you are in theta, you are going to get clear answers to. That's why a lot of people will say, I get my best ideas in the shower. That's because you're in theta. Winter is a season of theta. It's also a season of alpha. Alpha is present time. Alpha is flow. Alpha is not forcing and pushing, it's allowing, right? And so my goal for you with hearing this information in this season of winter is to create space, to create some slow rituals. And I'm going to talk about the reality of like, how do we do this in today's world with all we're juggling? And that you create some space to integrate, that you create some space to get the answers. You get the space to understand what is true for me now, right? So this is like a really good time for some rituals like slower mornings, journaling, sitting on your penf mat, right? Those of you that have followed me for a while, your sit spot, that yummy, delicious spot that you go to in the morning and just kind of connect with yourself before you're out there with the world and the day. Okay, so let's talk about this in regards to the monthly cycle, the lunar cycle, and then the day. Okay, so in your menstrual cycle, this is going to be days 24 to 28. Some people know this as the luteal phase. This is true, deep winter. This is for many women when they want to go inward, when they want to get quieter, from a communal perspective, from a tribal perspective, like way back in the day, this was the red tent time. This was when women in the community gathered together. They were in the same cyclical phase because they were spending time together. They were living out in nature. So everyone was kind of synced up as far as their cycle, and they would remove themselves from the community, go in the tent and get clarity and answers to some of the challenges that the community was facing. This is a time to get quiet, to get inward, and to allow space for those answers. For lunar phase, if you're someone who doesn't get your period anymore, this is the new moon. And think about this, how cool is this? When we have a new moon, we are in darkness, right? When we have full moon, everything is light and bright. So this is new, this is dark, this is inner reflection. And then as far as the daily rhythm, the winter is the evening wind down. This is when we're going from beta, gear 3, right? We've done all our work for the day, hustle, bustle, and we need to start to downshift into alpha, our heart center, present time, flow, connection with ourselves, down into theta, gateway to the subconscious is open, and then into delta, which is deep sleep and restoration. Okay, so let's get real now. Let's talk about this in today's world, right? These are all fine and good, but like, I gotta wake up, I gotta get out the house, I have work, it's winter, it's dark, it's cold, I wanna stay in, and now you're telling me I'm going completely against my rhythm. So use this again, like I said, as a permission slip to remind you that what your body is asking for is something that it actually needs, and then meet it where you can, right? So I'm not not saying it's winter and it's cold and it's dark, so call out of work. And I'm not saying, the week before your period, like completely shut out the world. It's not realistic. But here's what I do, so you can take some of mine if it helps you. This is a time when, I will approach the day from a place of listening instead of talking, right? So if it's the week before my cycle, I will create my intention for the day around being present with whoever's in front of me. So less outward energy and more inward, right? And who doesn't love the presence of another person in front of them? So again, it just gives you permission to not be so outward and how we're all used to showing up. At the end of the day, when I used to get that hit, like, let me just wrap up a few more emails, right? I'm starting to wind down. I'm starting to feel real good. Oop, but this isn't safe. I got to produce because that's what I've been conditioned to believe. I'm going to just blast through and do a few more of those emails. I no longer do that really ever because it'll pull you back into summer, into beta, into gear 3. And then what happens is you never get into delta, which is your deep sleep and restoration, right? So these are like really simple switches, hacks, tips that fit in today's busy women or men's lives. I love the mantra, a great day starts with a great night. And so, the more I have incorporated this into my life, the more I have realized that, not doing those emails or those last minute things at night really ensures that I get a great night's sleep and I'm ready the next day to hit it and I get so much more done, right? I think we've all experienced that. Last thing on winter, I, again, have lived this. I've kind of geeked out on this stuff, you guys. You've heard me talk about it a lot, but it's to the point now where my team knows cyclically, like when we are looking to plan podcasts, when we are looking to plan workshops, when I'm invited to speak on stage, one of the first things that we do is I will look at my menstrual cycle. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to say no to an opportunity if it doesn't line up, ideally. But if I have like a big outward work trip on my winter phase of my cycle, I'm just going to make sure to work in downshifting before, downshifting after. So that might look like absolutely scheduling a massage. It might look like clearing the weekend completely from any big social engagements the minute that I drop in at home so I can just be cozy on the couch with the kids. It might look like making an absolute commitment to myself to not work on the plane ride there or back and just binge my favorite Netflix shows. So again, I want you to understand that as we work to live more in alignment with our rhythms, this doesn't have to be unrealistic things. We can absolutely fit this into our lives. I would love to hear from you guys as you're listening to this, as you're watching this on YouTube. If you have ideas, thoughts, questions, especially those of you on YouTube, drop them in the comments. I look at and answer every single one, and I love the back and forth and feedback. Okay, the coolest thing about this too is as you start to live more in alignment, what starts to happen is when you lean more fully into, letting go in the seasons where you need to let go and you go inward, you not only get the benefits of that season, but you're going to fully get the benefits of the next one. So for instance, we're about to go back now into spring, which is where you're planting seeds. But if you didn't lean into winter, if you didn't go inward and ask yourself those questions, what's true for me now, then you don't have that powerful subconscious, whatever you believe, channeled information. You guys, winter is where we channel. So whether you believe in God, source, universe, higher power, that's winter. You now take that information and you plant seeds. And in the spring, when you're planting seeds, if you spent that time in winter, you're not planting the seeds that society told you to plant. You're planting the seeds that you came here to plant. That is power. That is where we start to live life by our design, not somebody else's. This is where you become unstoppable and super clear in what you're doing and who you're being, and nobody can ever take that away from you. I hope that helps you lean into winter. Okay, now spring. So again, think about this. Just like in winter, it's the season of the new moon, so there's darkness. It's like nature gives us clues. So when you think about spring, you think about you're planting seeds. Spring isn't asking you, are you ready to push it? Are you ready to do it? Are you ready to launch? It's asking, what are you ready to begin? Now that you got the clarity from winter, what do you want to plant seeds for? Who do you want to start to be? Maybe this means you want to, maybe you got hits of insight like, I have this dream. I've always wanted to create this thing. So spring would be where you start to look for resources, right? Again, you're not launching something new, but you're starting to plant the seeds. Maybe you decided in spring, I want to go to a dance class. I want to start gymnastics. Spring would be where you're starting to look. You're gathering that information. Where are there classes? Who can I reach out to, right? So the question for spring is what's stirring in me and what seeds do I want to start to plant? So spring, the theme for spring is renewal, emergence, possibility. The energy starts to become upward, right? This is where we start to just grow those tiny little sprouts. So it's upward energy. It's hopeful. It's exploratory. You think about how we all start to feel after a deep winter as spring turns. I mean, the energy is palpable, right? So our body will always give us clues and signals. And this is about leaning in and listening to them. This is our inner wisdom. In the menstrual cycle, this is approximately day 6 to 13. It obviously varies women to women, but this is the follicular phase. So this is for any woman who still has her cycle. You know, we're kind of inward during premenstrual and menstrual time. This is when you start to come alive again. For lunar phase, this is the waxing moon. Okay, so this is where the moon is just starting to grow. The theme, again, growth, momentum, building energy. It's like you can just kind of feel it. It's like when you're listening to a song and you feel it coming right before the beat drops. That's right before summer comes. Okay, so for your time of day, this is morning. So you're waking in theta. I always encourage you guys, take that time in theta where you're in like your intuition, you're inward, you're letting yourself come out of that winter. You're not going to slam onto your phone. You're not going to slam into beta, which is summer. You're going to spend that time lights low, right? Get some clarity. Listen to what you heard in winter. Jot it down into your journal. Get connected to yourself. That'll pull you into alpha, which is gear 2. It'll start to plant the seeds for those ideas. You'll start to say them out loud. Maybe this is where you start to do a little bit of the research. Then you go into your day, beta, summer. One of the things that I want, I keep saying this is a feature, not a flaw. So especially for my midlife mamas out there, and I love to use the word mamas, M-A-M-A, instead of moms, because I think, every woman plays the role of a mama in some way in her life. We are all caretakers. Something that happens around middle age through our estrogen fluctuations is discernment. And what I mean by that is we have way less room for BS. And this shows up when we are living out of alignment with these rhythms. And another thing that happens around midlife for our mamas is we are transitioning from like a high beta phase in our brain. Our brain needs and craves more theta and alpha. And so what this will look like in midlife, if you don't honor either your season of the year, your season of the week, or your season of the day, you are going to be high cortisol, anxious, stressed, have a really hard time shutting down all those tabs that we have open that we're way more prone to as a woman because of estrogen. And this is where we feel like anything could set you off, right? So that is a feature, not a flaw. There isn't something wrong with you. Your body is begging for the downshift, the lower gears, right? And so aligning with these rhythms is how you do that. And so one of the biggest recommendations I would make for you, again, in your weekly spring, is this is not where you go outward with the projection, with the connections, the career change, the things. This is where you start to integrate the ideas, right? You develop the plan. And then during your day, first spring, your action step is to give yourself that nice slow, this can literally be 5 minutes, integration from winter into the go mode, right? So like the slower morning transition. So like I said, taking those ideas and jotting them down in your journal is a perfect way to do that. Okay, you guys, I know this is a lot of information. What I did is I actually simplified all of this for you. I made a simple PDF where I literally bullet point winter, theme, the monthly, the lunar, and the daily, and I have it all for you, and I'm going to link it in the show description. So you can literally grab that, you can print it out, you can stick it on your computer, you can stick it in your journal. This is again like how you start to give yourself that permission to lean in. I have on my work computer at home, I have the menstrual cycle, and so I've literally named like which week is for like collaboration, which week is for finishing background tasks, which week I'm going to ask for opportunities, which week I'm going to plan my workshops. And so it starts to just become second nature. So if you want to grab that, it's linked in the description. It's the seasonal cheat sheet, and you can grab it and let me know how it goes. All right, summer. We all love summer. Our world functions as if we are all in summer all the time. And so, when I describe the theme and the energy of summer, realize that this is what we're trying to match all year. So the theme of summer is lightness. It's being seen. It's visibility. It's expression. It's connection. It's creation. The overall energy is outward, social, radiant, high output. As far as menstrual cycle, this is ovulation. You ask any woman who has her cycle, she'd be like, yep, of course. When we are in ovulation, it's like we're a peacock. Like, look at me, look at my feathers. I am here. You can literally tell when you go into a social event which women are in summer energy. They are the ones just like going table to table, smiles, high energy, high output. That's very much in alignment for this season of summer. This would obviously be June to August on the calendar. This is our nervous system is mainly in beta. This is gear 3. This is where we get stuff done. This is where we put ourselves out there. What's really important though is to take micro breaks in our summer, in our outward energy and expression. Again, we need those pulses and pauses. I have another resource for you guys below. It's the 2, 3, 4 self-with checklist. The best way I can explain this is, if you're a marathon runner, right? So like summer's kind of marathon energy, we're pushing, we're going, you still need water breaks. And so what I've done is I've simplified how you can incorporate these in 2 minutes every day, no matter what you're doing, and how important these are. Because if you are like someone who works on Zoom or, is on your computer, pushing the emails, doing all the things, you will hit a point where your body, again, this is a feature, not a flaw, your body is going to tell you need a break. This is where we usually push through it. We do caffeine. We're like, let me just push till the end of the day. You will be so much more effective if you take that 2-minute pulse micro break. Water break as a marathoner. Our brains run on a rhythm of 90-minute cycles. If you don't take that break, you will not be as effective. So I have a self-with checklist cheat sheet below as well. This is going to remind you how to use your 2 minutes 3 times a day for you to give yourself those little pauses and spaces and breaks throughout your day. You guys, it's so easy, and then you're going to come back and you're going to hit the work and you're going to be so much more effective. The other reason that is really important in our summer season, in our outward reflection season, to also create the space for quiet is because something really magical happens here. It's called gamma. I always love to talk brainwaves, but I want to keep them super simple too. Gamma is hits of insight, right? Have you guys ever had one of those moments where you're like, oh my God, I just got the best idea? That will happen when you create the pauses, particularly during summer. High energy, give yourself some quiet in the car. Like maybe don't put on the music, don't put on the podcast, and you'll just be like, oh my God, I just figured out the answer to that problem. That's gamma, that's the target, that's the bullseye, and gamma will come to you and through you when you create spaces, particularly in summertime. So think about that from the daily cycle, right? So summer is late morning to early afternoon. Let's call it 9 to 5. Let's call it like the old school work day. So 9 to 5, we're in beta. We're in like peak production mode. Your brain is like super clear, right? Create those micro breaks and pauses so that you can receive your hits, your insight, your gamma, your bullseye target information. As far as moon phase, this is full moon. Again, remember, nature leaves clues, obviously, right? This is light, bright sky. The moon wants to be seen. She is in her full expression. And the question to ask during summer is not, is this perfect? It's, am I safe being seen? So you think about in winter, we got the ideas. Maybe it was, I'm just going to use my gymnastics story example. So at one point when I was in winter season, I got the crazy idea that I missed gymnastics so much that I wanted to go back. And I sat with that and I was like, I'm really feeling this. Then in spring, I decided, where would I do it, right? Where could a 42-year-old woman at the time, I'm now 44, where could I learn gymnastics again? Where would I go? In summer, I started. But summer wasn't about being perfect because I never would have began. Summer is feeling safe being seen. So maybe for you, this is like a new job, a new career, a new creation, a new relationship, right? We are not going for perfection. We are going for being brave and courageous enough to be seen in our expression. That's the game. Another good question to ask is not, am I enough? Because that will often come up. Am I good enough? Am I enough? Do I deserve this? Am I an imposter for trying to create this? A better question is, what is it that I want to express right now? So remember, any question that we ask ourselves, we will find the answer to. I'm going to nerd out on some neuroscience here for a minute, but if you've ever wanted a new red car, you will see red cars everywhere on the road, right? What happens is when you ask yourself a question, a filter in your brain, it's called the reticular activating system, looks looks for clues. And the reason it has to do that is we are surrounded by so much sensory information at any time that it has to filter it out, right? So like right now I'm in a podcast studio. There's fabric on me. There's smells, there's temperatures, there's lights. I have to tune some of that out. It's too much. And so you tell your filter what to filter out by what you ask it. I'm gonna give you one more example. You're in a baseball stadium, tons of people, tons of noise. If someone kind of near you, but far enough away, said your name, you would hear it, right? You have primed your filter to hear your name. So when you ask these questions of yourself, am I good enough? What am I trying to do? Am I an imposter? Like, it might show you all the ways that you are an imposter, that you aren't ready, right? So do more specific seated questions. What is it that I want to express? Because those are the answers that will help us actually be brave enough to take that next step. And guess what? You don't have to think about the whole journey, just one step, because the rest will get figured out. Okay, now we move to fall. And again, I love this, nature leaves clues. So I can tell you the theme and the concept of fall, but if you look around in fall, look at the trees, right? They're letting go. So fall is a season where you are moving from summer. You had all the things, and now you're gonna start to let some go. I let that go. So fall is a season of discernment. Fall is a season of boundaries. Fall is not a question of how much can I fit in? It's more a question of what no longer fits. Another question is, instead of something like, what should I hold on to? It's what am I ready to release, right? So this is where, obviously, again, we're gonna take some of that outward energy, and this is where we're gonna bring it inward. Days are shorter, temperatures are getting colder. Again, naturally, our body needs and craves this. So let's talk about ways that we can honor this realistically. But first, let's go through the other cycles so you can lock this in. So the menstrual cycle, this would be your luteal phase. Again, we're starting to gear up. This is post-ovulation. This is pre-period. This is where progesterone rises. This tends to be like more of our grounding hormone, and estrogen starts to drop. The energy of the fall season is no BS. Again, this is discernment. This is boundaries, which a lot of us have some work to do on our boundaries. So I like to use the word self-agreements. This is where we're just being honest with ourselves. We're saying no to the things that don't light us up or that honestly we know are going to drain us. Moon phase, this would be the waning moon, right? So we're taking the full moon and it's starting to get a little bit darker. It's starting to go inward. It's starting to be seen less. Okay, and then as far as our day, this is later afternoon. So midday, 9 to 5, high beta, getting stuff done. Oh, forgot to tell you in high beta, put your phone on do not disturb, right? This is where in the summer you hit all those projects. You hit like the hard tasks that require tons of focus. Now, maybe around like the 3 o'clock mark, the 4 o'clock mark, the 5 o'clock mark, you're just answering emails. You're checking the boxes, right? You're just doing like the low hanging fruit jobs, or you're transitioning into, okay, I got this stuff done, but I need to move some of these parts of the projects or tasks into tomorrow. For a mama, this might be, now I'm going to transition into like the meal plan or start to do mama math for picking them up from school and the after school activities. You're still super productive in this time, but it's a little bit different. It's not as much of like the outward, it's more of like a pre-planning and organizing phase. This is where we're moving from beta into alpha, into connection, into heart center, into a little bit more inward reflection and quiet. All right, so one of my favorite practices moving from summer to fall, when I'm journaling or something like that, looking at, the family calendar, the work calendar, it's like, what commitments do we need to wind down on? What kinds of things in my schedule do I want to quiet? I'm doing that pre-planning, which is very summer into fall, right? A lot of us are doing this. We're looking at maybe the school year or what feels like the beginning of the year. Like, how do I want this to go? What maybe new routines do I want to start to establish? That's the pre-planning, right? So you're still work mode, you're still productive, but it's more of like a behind the scenes kind of planning, right? All right. So remember, I've got that cheat sheet below with all of this laid out for you guys in that super clear PDF. As you move through these seasons, remember, nothing here is something that you guys need to learn or master. Your body already already knows. So this is just an invitation to listen again, to trust your rhythms, to stop forcing yourself to bloom in winter or rest in summer. Again, I'm not here as the expert, you guys, telling you who to be. I'm here as the guide, and my goal is to remind you of what you already know to be true. When you come back to yourself like that, that is where your power lives. That is alignment. And again, nobody can take that away from you. You don't need a book. You don't need a podcast. You don't even need this video, because you have it in you. Guys, if you like this, make sure to grab those resources below. This is like a tiny hint of what's in my book, The Connection Code. We'll link that below as well. I would love to hear in the comments either any of your questions, like I said earlier, but really what I would love to hear is what you remembered about yourself. That's what lights me up. What unlocked in you that maybe you forgot about, that maybe it's gotten a little dusty? What reconnected in you? All right, guys, let me know, and let's stay connected together. See you next time.